What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. Silver Surfer. Let's start off by saying this. We're doing a Marvel Roundup today. We're going to be talking about the Silver Surfer, the Blade situation. Finally, we have an answer. And the Thunderbolts reactions.
Yeah.
Positivity in the MCU, although the Sinners movie and the sort of quality of work that we've been getting and the buzz has certainly been on other films. Will Thunderbolts take away some of that momentum for those films? Is the question. Are people, because again, we've talked about it before, are people tired of the MCU? Are people tired of the superhero genre? I don't know about the superhero genre so much, because there are other films out there that we are looking forward to, that like Superman. Obviously, we're looking forward to Fantastic Four, but Thunderbolts will be the precursor to understanding whether the MCU has fallen out of favor, like for not for good, but will it fall out of favor for some time? Is this the beginning of it?
I think you kind of look at it as like this generation of MCU, right? We're still dealing with holdovers from the Infinity Saga, and then people who kind of were introduced in the immediate aftermath, kind of during the COVID period, and right. That's what we're talking about. It's like that generation of heroes and storytelling. Are we kind of just, we need to put all that on the shelf and just wait and then start anew with mutants and that sort of thing. And I do think this project and Fantastic Four, the combination of those two, is shaping up as a real test of where we are with that.
Silver Surfer, Brian.
We finally got to look and we got to listen at Julia Garner's incarnation in the latest trailer. We kind of talked about it. I didn't love the voice part of it, but the visuals look fine. She has started to talk a little bit more about the film and the project, and kind of not really understanding why Matt Shakman wanted to talk to her originally. So she said, basically, I met up with Matt, who's lovely. And she said, and then I was confused because I was like, isn't Silver Surfer a man? I was just like, okay, well, I'll play anything. And I was a very big fan of Matt Shakman's. So there was already in my mind kind of like, I should probably take the meeting with him because he's a very smart director and I love his work. But then he was explaining to me that it's actually Shalla-Bal and that whole thing. So it's going to be really interesting. And I have to be so cryptic, but it was described as there's this mystery about her and this sense of ambiguous energy going on of whether she's good or not. She is the Herald of Galactus, so she works for him, but you're not sure where she stands. Does she stand with her boss, or is she doing what she's told? She has this mysterious energy about her, and slowly the mystery will get solved with the audience through watching it, end quote. I believe that is the first formal confirmation that it is Shalla-Bal, which we kind of knew, but like, I even saw some people speculating, like, is this like a rat, like another Radd? Like, it's not Norin Radd, but it's like Radd's daughter or something. And like, no, she's saying it is the comics Shalla-Bal, Princess of Zenn-La. Like, that's who she actually is playing. So in theory, Norin Radd is still on the shelf. He's in the library somewhere if they want to use that down the road. But I don't know, like, you've had a chance to think about it a little bit since we saw it in the trailer. And then you get this quote from her, like your latest thoughts on kind of where we stand on having Surfer be a part of this introduction of Fantastic Four under the Marvel banner.
Her description of the character and where she lies sounds very similar to Silver Surfer's MO. That's what I thought about it. It's like, to me, this is disappointing because how can, what will be like, when we're introduced to Norin Radd again, if we are, like, is the excitement still the same after seeing this?
It's a good question.
That's it's like you're doing this story. The only way for me to get me on board to see a Norin Radd Silver Surfer is his origin. If there was an origin, that's the origin you do.
Maybe that's the solution.
Origin.
I mean, I don't think we're going to see her origin. So maybe
she'll say something about it.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll have to give some backstory, but I don't think we're going to get like how like Infinity War, you got Thanos flashbacks to him and like how he finds Gamora. Like, I don't think you're getting that with this incarnation. I don't think there's room for it in this movie. So maybe you're right. Maybe the Zenn-La kind of tales are sort of how you get Norin Radd's story in here in a way that feels original. Or she's describing Surfer as kind of morally ambiguous, and we don't understand the motivations, and that's obviously very central to any Silver Surfer. But maybe part of the solution here is she doesn't betray Galactus. Maybe keep her on the villainous side for now. Why does it always have to end up with, yeah, we know what the main Surfer ends up defying Galactus, but for the purposes of this film, do we need to see it in this movie? I don't think so necessarily.
But that's the thing, we might get it.
I know, but I'm just suggesting, if they want to chart a little different path, keep her as the henchman of Galactus for longer. Why get to all that in just one movie?
Me, honestly, I wouldn't even want to see her in anything after this. Galactus is not the type of character you see over and over again in films. The way I would use Galactus is for Zenla, and then the reason to go for going to Earth. Silver Surfer finds this planet. But we can't do that again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm with you. This is my whole concern. Yeah, that's my whole concern is even if this movie's good, did we put too much forward too quickly?
And listen, if you go back to the Fantastic Four cartoons, they're not that, their stories, for me, they're not that great. You go to see perhaps Reed and his intellect and how he sort of thinks about things, and maybe the Thing, but it's still not as interesting enough. You know what I'm saying? Their villain, Galactus, is that dude. I remember the Fantastic, their foe, and Doom, right?
Yeah.
But are we almost doing a Black Adam that Doom is not worthy enough to be in this film with the Fantastic Four as a first shot?
But I understand that one, though. See, I understand that one just from the perspective of the other Fantastic Four movies already did that. And so to your point about, I could understand saying, look, that's what we would want to do had those projects not happened. But because the audience is conditioned to see Doom and Fantastic Four already, we've got to do something different. My question about different is, did they need to go all the way to the Galactus arriving at Earth so soon? Are we going to look back and kind of say, was there a path to do a Thanos style build of if you really want to do this, have whatever story they're doing, have Reed messing around in space. That's not really the focal point of the film, but then your classic Marvel credit scene is something he was doing gets the attention. And your last scene is basically just Galactus's eye, or something that lets you know that he's all of a sudden aware of something out in the direction of Earth that he wasn't caring about before. And that gives you runway to get to this point. Because to your point, it's he can't be killed in this film. So it's now you're making him almost like Godzilla, where it's he comes to Earth, you forestall. I assume it's going to be Franklin who is the reason why he doesn't, destroy Earth. Yeah. But then it's he's going to come back. He's going to now you're setting this thing up where it's Galactus is out there and present and around, knows about Earth, knows about the Fantastic Four. I don't know. It's not impossible, but I'm not.
That's what's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the clear path to this yet.
That is going to be interesting to sort of discover why. Perhaps, yes, Galactus is there to consume the Earth, but then he realizes, Franklin, there's something about this dude. That, to me, has to work, Brian, in order for me to, I'm going to be in awe of Galactus, and, I'm not going to completely dislike this movie. I think there's a lot about this movie that I'm going to like, and there's certain things I'm going to nitpick on because of the way they're going about this.
Well, I actually think of what we've seen of Galactus so far, the most interesting shot is the one of him peering in the window. And the reason I say that is because typically when you see characters of this scale, to my Godzilla point, you associate them with mass mayhem and destruction, and they just kind of plow through the city. That scene is really interesting because he's kind of stealth. If you look at that little shot, he's very sneakily, gently peeking. He's not destroying that building. He's hunting this kid. So that actually got me more interested as to are they going to make this character multidimensional and almost, he's gigantic and he's colossal, but as we know, he's quite intelligent. He has his own code. This is an interesting character if you do it right. So that one shot made me think oh, okay, maybe they're using him in a way that it could be fun to see on screen.
The interest here is what sort of situations afford them the ability to speak to Galactus. What happens? What does Galactus know or realizes? Because why doesn't he just take Franklin, right? What is preventing someone like Galactus from doing what he wants? That for me is the very interesting part of this film.
But that's
outside
what I mean. Like everything,
visuals,
yeah. But that's what I mean. Like every shot you've seen of Galactus, he's not destroying anything, right? You see his head looming over the city. You see him walking between the buildings, right down the street, and then you see him peeking in this one building. Like he's not. They have not showcased him as like a destructive force of nature yet. We know that's in his bag, but it at least has sort of gotten attention for what exactly how they're going to.
I want to see his ship. Yeah. I want to see his ship. Blade.
Yeah. Here we go. We knew it was coming.
Right? I'm waiting to see what Ali got to say. That's what I'm waiting for.
That's why. Listen, the most interesting thing about the Jurassic World Rebirth promotional tour is the Mahershala Ali interviews about what happened. Because look, Ruth Carter and Delroy Lindo, the reason they're talking is because of Sinners, right? They're on Sinners. So people ask. You don't think Mahershala Ali is going to get asked? Like, dude, what the hell happened?
Very interesting point. I did not think about that, but yeah, we're finally going to soon. When is that movie coming out? July 2nd?
It comes out the first week. Yeah, July 4th weekend, basically. Yeah.
So I would say that first week of July, the end of June, first week of July, we're going to get some answers possibly. And these answers will probably be rehearsed, obviously.
Oh, they're working on them now. His team is working on them now. I guarantee it.
Definitely. Yeah, it'll be very interesting.
What I'm also looking for is, does he admit that he's no longer attached? I'm on the lookout for it.
Yeah.
This would be a form where he could remember how Aaron Pierre, about being the villain, very casually said a couple months after the fact, he was like, yeah, I was, but not anymore. I'm not attached. Like, it's just like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Would not be shocked if he lets slip that he's no longer the Daywalker.
Interesting times. And again, if you've been following the Nerd Gen Report, we've been talking about Blade not happening.
If this was a stock, you and I have been betting against
with
this
Mahershala
stock for
Ali.
5 years.
Yes.
If this was a publicly traded company, we've been betting against this thing for 5 years.
Oh, we've been Lashif.
Yeah.
Putting puts on.
Somebody talked. Yeah. So let me get these two quotes. So Delroy Lindo obviously was supposed to be a supporting character in Blade, and Ruthie Carter was supposed to do costumes for Blade. She did costumes for Black Panther, did costumes for Sinner, multiple, Oscar award winning. Here's Delroy Lindo. When Marvel came to me, they seemed to be really interested in my input. So this would be like in 2019, 2020, we're talking. And in various conversations I had with producers, the writer, and the director at the time, it was all leading to being very inclusive. It was very exciting conceptually, but it was also exciting in terms of the character that was going to form. And then, for whatever reason, it just went off the rails, end quote. Mincing no words, Delroy Lindo. But implying in its original form, there was a plan. That's kind of what I took from that. He's like, the very first incarnation of this, they had an idea. And he's basically saying that just got destroyed.
To me, it tells me that they didn't really have an idea of what they really wanted to do here.
So Ruth Carter then adds, she confirms a long-standing rumor about how this was originally conceived. Quote, this is actually on John Campia's show, incidentally. He said, quote, I was prepping Blade for Marvel, and it was a 1920s Blade story. And it got shut down because of the writer's strike and the actor's strike. So I was just in limbo, having done a lot of research for this period piece about a vampire, end quote. So that would seem to confirm the Blade Dracula incarnation of this that we had heard about, that it was a 1920s iteration. Blade had like his human name, and they were going to go explore the origins of that. And that version obviously never happened. It kind of that morphed into the Mia Goth and the daughter, and that came on later. But Ruth Carter is saying the original version of this was a period piece, which is, to me, in some ways incredibly ironic, because Sinners obviously turned out to be a vampire movie set in the 1930s. That may in fact be as close as you ever get to seeing the period piece Blade movie, is what Ryan Coogler does in Sinners. And quite frankly, maybe we're better for that because he probably did it better. But I thought that was incredibly interesting that she finally confirmed they were going to set this thing in the 1920s.
You think Marvel had any hesitation of doing this movie in that time because of Sinners?
No, just because Sinners came together pretty quickly. I mean, like Coogler, at the time they would have been having these conversations, would still have been working on Wakanda Forever. Sinners would not have been a consideration for that stage of the Blade project. But it's interesting to imagine a world where that Blade movie happens before Sinners comes out, and how that would have had any impact on our reception or perception of Sinners today. Because there inevitably would have been a comparison. Like if there was a 1920s Blade vampire movie and a 1930s Ryan Coogler Sinners vampire movie, obviously people would have put those two things side by side and to some extent and looked at them if they came out within a couple years of each other. But at any rate, both Carter and Lindo making pretty clear this thing is dead. Like there's nothing
toast.
Yeah,
it's done. So the Thunderbolts is coming out next week, right?
Yeah, May 2nd.
Yeah, and I'm going to be on a cruise, so I won't be seeing it until I get back.
Pablo's indicative of the movie going. He found time for Sinners. He ain't finding time for Thunderbolts opening weekend. There you go. I think this is going to be a recurring theme.
It'll be interesting to see what sort of reaction the Thunderbolts actually gets from the movie-going audience.
I think reviews are critical for this movie.
So far, we've gotten a lot of good reactions to it, Brian.
So reactions are always positive. But it's interesting what people are reacting to. That is what's got me on a lookout, right? So people are responding to the difference in tone, which I would say is not really obvious from the trailer. I think the trailer actually does a lot of work to try to make you think the tone is very similar to vintage MCU projects. But the reactions would suggest this film is actually very different. And the difference they talk about is really that it's much more character driven. It's much more actor driven. That Florence Pugh in particular, I wouldn't say that's a surprise, that she's awesome. What I would say is more of a surprise is that Lewis Pullman as Sentry getting real notices as a complex performance, as a, quote, sympathetic character at war with himself. If that's true, this movie might have a chance, because I did not see that coming.
I've heard this movie, there are a lot of themes with regards to mental health in this movie, and that his performance and others, but you feel it throughout. I think perhaps because of that, they're giving it this. It's why you're getting this sort of positive reaction in terms of addressing that aspect, I guess. So, yeah.
Quotes here about what I'm talking about within reactions. Like I said, reactions are always more positive than reviews, but what I'm pulling out here is interesting. So, quote, shocked how good Thunderbolts is. Putting emphasis on the character work and practical action makes this feel like old Marvel that has eluded us for a decade plus. Really wish we'd gotten this sooner. That's one. Number two, Thunderbolts, that was pretty great. Visually daring. See, that doesn't come across at all in the trailer to me. Visually daring, emotionally resonant superhero film that pushes mental health to the front. Florence Pugh brings the heart. David Harbour is consistently funny. Lewis Pullman, the stealth MVP.
Wow.
See, that's
Entry.
Interesting to me. Really dug Thunderbolts. It's kind of overtly about depression, loneliness, and purpose, and the point being that they're reject characters. 2/3 of it mostly grounded action. 1/3 actually feels like a horror-induced nightmare. See, this just feels very different than the promotional material. Like, are you getting any of this from the promotional material? There's a lot of David Harbour jokes.
Not really.
A lot of set pieces. To me, it's like they're trying to make you think it feels like Winter Soldier or Civil War a little bit, but with different characters.
And it's something else, and that's good.
So maybe they mismarketed this because the reactions are kind of saying that like this is actually new and different.
The descriptions and the reactions that don't match the trailers.
Yeah, because I'm saying if you look at what's in the trailers, there's a lot of jokes. Right, David Harbour is telling a lot of jokes in these trailers. Sebastian Stan is wisecracking. Florence Pugh is wisecracking. John Walker is wisecracking. That's what the emphasis is on from the dialogue perspective. From an action perspective, it looks gray. It generally looks grounded, but like I said, it kind of looks like Captain America. That's what I think they're trying to evoke. The only scene that looks different action-wise is the one where Sentry's making those people disappear. That's the only thing that looks a little different. To me, the trailer seems to be wanting you to think this is like 2014 MCU. And the reactions are saying this is actually much more of like a genre drama. And I'm just kind of curious as to were they, I mean, we know Marvel is trying to recapture the magic any way they can. They seem fixated on that. I am curious because I've seen this trailer in front of movies a lot now. I have not heard one audience react to it at all. I've heard audiences react to the Mission Impossible trailer that's out there. I've heard audiences react to the Superman trailer when it's been attached. This trailer doesn't really get much oohs and ahs from anyone. But I'm wondering if the reviews start to make it clear and the opening weekend audience start to make clear that actually this is not what was promoted. It's actually different in a good way. Could this movie start to pick up some steam even in a competitive marketplace in weeks 2 and 3? Because it feels like it's coming in cold. I mean, the projections are for like $65-70 million US opening weekend, which is horrible for a first weekend of May. And given all the competition that's out there, I wouldn't be shocked if it was like 50. Like if Sinners is not dropping and Minecraft is not dropping and Accountant people are liking and people are still seeing Revenge of the Sith, like there's not a lot of room for this movie all of a sudden. And if people are also, as I told you in the previous show, holding their dollars and super excited for Mission Impossible 8 and Lilo and Stitch on Memorial Day weekend, like this thing could have a tough time. So I think it needs 90%. I think it needs 90% Rotten Tomatoes and people saying, holy moly, this is something different. You got to see it because it's different.
Yeah, I think 85 to 90, I think. 85 to 90, I think will get people to more interested. And then, the repeat viewings are obviously, and the word of mouth, like, oh, this is actually really good. That sort of, you need to check this out. And I'm talking about getting Marvel fans back. I'm not talking about regular folks. I'm talking about Marvel fans to the theaters. They need to hear this so that they are back into the MCU train, because there's a lot of people that got off a long time ago, me being one of them. And that is crazy to say. But yeah, that's our Marvel Roundup. Let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of each of these topics. Silver Surfer, the Blade, the finality of Blade, and perhaps some more confirmation as soon as Jurassic World, that first week of July. We'll perhaps hear Ali say the magic words, I'm no longer attached to it. Whatever it is, the headline, Ali is out. That's what we're going to see.
Immediate cut to Wesley Snipes. We're going to be one Blade. I'm telling you.
Word up. And Thunderbolts. Are you excited for Thunderbolts? I'm not excited for Thunderbolts, but I'm getting curious, a lot more curious to go and want to see what this movie is really about. Let us know in the comment section below, and we'll see you next time on the Nerd Report.